the bottom line on the spiritual journey is, do we move, at a certain point anyway, do we move towards the story of ourselves? Do we move towards the narrative that feeds itself through our attention? The story of the victim of us, the story of how we've suffered, the story of how bad it's been, how difficult it is, how much pain there is, how wrong it all is, how terrible the world is. Do we move towards that? Because that's what we are pulled to, of course. And sometimes we have to. There's no judgment in whether this is good or bad, but if stillness, if equanimity, if presence and peace is really being sought, and I mean, we have to look inside to decide for ourselves, is that what is really being sought? Because if it is, then we have to get quite serious at certain times with ourselves and decide what we are going to do. The bottom line. What's the bottom line here? Bottom line is, do I stay here? Here, meaning in this presence, just like this, like a dog, almost. Stay. And when the pull of the mind, and the pull of the narrative, and the pull of the it shouldn't have happened, or the pull of yes, but it's too painful, comes, as it will, as it does, because the storm, big or small, comes. Do we go towards it, or do we stay here? This is a bottom line question. And of course, a lot of the time, and that's what we're habitually used to, that's what we're habitually all trained for, it's what we do. It's the unconscious state, it's the normal state. But it is the state of suffering, to get caught in it, to try and seek the solution to the problem in the problem. Sometimes we need to, and we work it out. There's no beration either. If you lose yourself in the story, do not berate yourself for it. It does not work. See it clearly and return to this. Don't self-punish. You can't self-punish your way to freedom. I keep saying this. You can't self-punish. If you fall off the bike and you fall off the path, get back on without imagining that you've got it wrong, and what that makes you a terrible person or a failure or something. This is of no use whatsoever. Simply just return. And then the bottom line again. In the midst of experience, not just in meditation, not just sitting here listening to this, not just in the quiet of your own home, but there as well, of course. That's where some of the groundwork can really be done. But even in the midst of the marketplace of life, where you feel the pull, when you're driving, when you feel the pull towards getting involved, getting over-involved in your own machinations or somebody else's machinations, when you want to get involved in that, to say no. See what it does to you. If you don't feed it, something dies within you. It's not a bad death. If you don't feed it constantly, then it's just has nowhere to go. And I'm talking not about just ignoring things. That's the way it's often taken. It's like, well, if you're not feeding it, you're just bypassing it or ignoring it. And this is not the path that's being talked of. This is a much deeper, more honest path. And it can come sometimes for people who have been really on the path, on the journey for a long time, and they do know themselves. You do know yourself. Many people that I work with and who come to our meetings and retreats, they know themselves well enough. They know that they're not bypassing. But the spiritual path is filled with small decisions and big decisions. It doesn't just happen to us, and I don't have anything to do with it. We do have a lot to do with it. The spiritual path is filled with small choices and big choices. Where we put our attention, what we seek to do, how we choose to meet ourselves, how we choose to face our difficulties, small and big. We can choose things. There's no crime in that. There's no, this is obvious. It's honest. To choose where we put our attention. Right now, I'm going to choose to put my attention on this. I could equally choose to not put my attention on that. So it is within us. Oh, my neighbour's doing this, that and the other and playing his music real loud. He shouldn't be doing that. And there I start the journey of either recrimination and judgment of the other, or else I feel, something to do with myself. Yeah, but I shouldn't be living here. Yes, but I don't have enough money. Yes, but if I was more successful, I'd be able to make better choices and get out of this house and get away from him, and then that problem would be solved. Yeah, but another problem would just take its place. To nip that one in the bud, to see that ultimately in those moments the only person who's suffering is you. And so to make a choice not to feed that, even though it's very hungry. Most of the thoughts that we have, most of the emotional thoughts that we have, the ones that circle around us like vultures, they're always very hungry. And all they can feed on is our energy. So we have to be discerning about where we put that energy. We have to be discerning about the choices that we make, about where to put our attention and energy. And this is the bottom line. It really is the bottom line. And we have that capacity, and it's an ever deepening capacity. And the more we fall inside, the more we get to know ourselves, the more we clear out old stuff and etc., the more we get to see, and the more we get to feel how those choices show up, where we to choose, where we put our attention, where we move away from our equanimity, our presence, our awareness, our grace. And that brings a freedom, because then we're no longer feeding, certainly unconsciously, but more habitually, those patterns that go round and round, those hungry, ghost-like patterns that go around and around, that if you've been on a spiritual path of inquiry, non-dual inquiry, or whatever, deep honesty, you've noticed the habitual nature of the patterns of your thoughts and feelings and emotions, and how they just go round and round, usually circling around some core belief that you have about yourself or about the world that you've inherited through your history, your personal history, kind of instilled through the parenting that you experienced. So as well as psychologically solving or exploring those very things, which is very useful because that brings insight and awareness, but still, even then, you still have to make the choice. You have to make a deeper choice. So this is how valuable this is, because then you get to see. This is very, very empowering as well, because it brings you back to the center. It brings you back to being, somewhat the authority in your own life. To be the authority in one's own life, not the victim of the past or the habitual tendencies or the habitual patterns that go round and round and round in life. And this is deeply empowering, not in a superficial way, but in the way of keeping one in the deep, even as one is moving around in that great marketplace we call life, to stay in the deep, so you don't get lost so much, and you hold on to your own energy force, your own energy system. The bottom line, stay here. Don't go towards any of it.